Hey, Michael Griffin here with Wealth by Real Estate. I'm here with my main man, Steve, with the Hobby Source. It's a cards and collectible place here in Denver, Colorado. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, bud?
It's actually just not my podcast. It's both our podcasts, but I'm glad to be here. Steve came a long way to be here. I think about 20 miles. We're in the basement of my house, actually. It's kind of a cool setup, I thought.
Very nice setup.
This is the first of many of podcasts, and I wanted to have Steve here with me today because he and I have known each other a very, very long time. I don't know how many years, maybe 10, 12?
About 12 years.
12 years. And, he and I are very similar. He owns several different businesses, from the Hobby Source, like I said, the car collectible shop, Opus Motors, which is a car dealership. He's had multiple car dealerships. He's a serial entrepreneur like me. And so I thought maybe we would have some synergy here and talk about some cool shit.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you're doing these days, Steve.
Doing a little bit of everything. Kind of regrouped to start doing more passion projects. So right now I have this sports card and collectible store. Sports card and collectible shop. We have a car dealership that's in the works. We have a water filtration system business that I run, as well as some real estate investments. So
actually, Steve and I actually invest in real estate together. We started investing several years back. Actually, cool story. We bought this property. It was off-market, piece of shit property in Denver, flex warehouse kind of building. And it was a former gym, gentleman, 88 years old, Howard. He was still working out in this facility. It was a closed down gym. All his equipment was still in there. And he ended up, we knocked on his door and he said, hey, I'd sell it to you and not the developers, as long as you keep it the way it is, remodel it. But this is his baby and he wanted to keep it that way. So we ended up buying it for like $450,000, seller carry deal here in the middle of Denver in a hot spot. And now it's worth a couple $1 million, you think?
Yeah, close to $2 million.
Yeah. So it's that was definitely a win, and that started us in the real estate game together, and we've always done well together, I think.
Yeah, it's been a good journey.
Yeah, except for we had that one mishap with exotic car rentals. That was
and that wasn't really real estate. That was more of a business venture that I don't think we put enough time and energy into. And
well, Denver's not the market for exotic car rentals, I think.
That was a big part of it too. I think that was one of the biggest variables, is that we didn't have the proper kind of economy at the time. I don't think we have that even now. I mean,
I think going back, you went to Vegas and you rented a car. I think it was a Ferrari at the time. You're like, this is a great business model. Brought it here to Denver. Little did we know, it snows in Denver half the time. So not really an exotic car rental market necessarily. And come to find out, we bought Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, Bentley, right? And we ended up renting these things out where our competition didn't actually own the vehicles. They actually rented it from other people and gave them a percentage. So they didn't hold the insurance. They didn't own the titles to the car. They had very little overhead. We have massive overhead. And I think ultimately that was a bad business model for Denver.
Yeah, because when people go to Vegas, they automatically have a mentality of, let me spend money, let me go party, let me go rent a nice car. It's a destination where people already have this mindset that, hey, I'm going to spend all this money, blow all this extra savings that I came here with. Whereas Colorado really doesn't have that type of mentality when people fly into Colorado for a business trip or whatever it is, and it's a different mindset of a person that comes into Colorado, I feel like, than like Miami or
100%. I mean, there are certain products where people are willing to spend a lot of money on something that's frivolous, or maybe doesn't seem like, some people are like, oh, you're going to spend $1,000 renting a Ferrari. Like, that's a dumb idea. You're going to waste $1,000. But to some people, that's a thing, right? That gives them joy and passion. One thing that I only recently started to understand was the card and collectible game, right? So like, it's another way to invest, but it's also, in my perspective, kind of gambling, because you're getting a car that can go up and down in value. It's kind of like the stock market, but it's a tangible piece that you actually own versus a company out there that's running on its own. That you have nothing to do with that company. You're just owning a piece of stock, where this is actually a tangible. You can trade it, you can own it, you can keep it, right? But it's still, some people like myself, before I learned about cards and collectibles, was like, why would you have a Hulk Hogan figurine that's going to cost you $1,000? That's a waste of money, right? But is it? I don't know.
Well, just to to answer your question, I think it just depends on how you're looking at it and what kind of money you have to spend. Because it's, at the end of the day, it is a hobby, right? So if you're putting money into it, anticipating for it to bring a return on your investment, then you're probably doing the wrong thing, because nobody really knows what the demand is going to be for each and single collectible. If that was the case, everybody would invest into something for sure and, make money off of it. I think what it really comes down to is collecting what you love, but also studying the market at the same time if you're wanting to do it as an investment, right? So if you're putting money into it and you're thinking, okay, well, I want to invest into something sort of like a blue chip stock, right? You mentioned the gambling aspect of it, right? So there is a gambling aspect, and that's if you're wanting to buy sports cards, for example, right? Let's say you go to a hobby store, sports card shop, such as the one I have, and you say, hey, I have $200 to spend and I want to open up some sealed product, right? That's purely a gambling strategy because you never know what you're going to get. You could buy a $200 box, $500 box and hit absolutely nothing, or you could hit something that's worth currently on the market $1,500 or $2,000.
What percentage of people do you think come in and actually do that though? I mean, speak about gambling, like is it, collectors probably don't do that very often because they understand that it's gambling and it's a risk, right? Collectors want a specific card or specific collectible. Would you say it's more the amateur collector that's trying to, that has $50 in their pocket and they're trying to make it big and hit a $2,000 card in the middle of a pack and just hoping, kind of like scratch tickets, right? Would you say that's more the amateur investor that does that the majority of the time?
Well, I wouldn't call it an investor just because, so you have two different types of people. You have collectors, which are people that just collect what they love or something that brings them sentimental or nostalgic value. And then you have people that are just trying to have fun in the hobby by opening up a sealed product to have that chance of what you refer to as the scratch ticket lottery, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's a difference. So if you go to Las Vegas and you go gamble at the roulette table or you gamble playing blackjack or craps or what have you, there is no tangible asset there, right? So same thing with a scratch ticket or a Colorado lottery ticket. With this, you actually have a physical card that has a marketplace. So if you go on the marketplace, which is either there's all sorts of apps nowadays, like eBay, you could go on there, you go on Alt, there's Card Ladder, there's Market Movers app, there's all these different apps that give you the ability to understand what the market value, and every card has a market value. It's just like stocks, it's just like a real estate. So you open up this pack and let's say you spend $50 on a box and then you hit a $200 card. Well, you can take that $200 card and liquidate it pretty instantaneous. You can put it on auction, you can send it to eBay, whatever. So those people are kind of gambling, right? Because it's chance. Like
Sure.
You could hit 10, 50 or $100 boxes and get absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Or you could hit a $50 box and hit a $5,000 card, right?
And when you speak of like box, you're talking about like unopened boxes from like 20 years ago.
No, I'm talking about today's relevant boxes.
Oh,
so when I say boxes, I'm talking about what we call in the hobby sealed wax. So sports cards come in boxes that are sealed by the manufacturers. Today, one of the biggest manufacturers is Fanatics. You also have Panini, you have Bowman. So these companies create, for every type of sport and every kind of trading card game, they create boxes of sealed product that's new every single year for the newest players. So for example, let's say you have I'll give you a perfect example, 2022 Brock Purdy, right? So when he went on his streak of winning 7 games in a row, his market just boomed, right? Yeah. Because people were like, oh, this is the next Tom Brady. He just won 7 games. It's a similar story, right? Garoppolo, like he gets in a situation similar to Tom Brady, like he did with Drew Bledsoe back in 2000. He was a backup quarterback. So everybody's like building up this hype. So his rookie patch auto, which is rookie patch auto is a card that is made from the first year that player debuted and also has a patch on the actual card of a game used jersey as well as an autograph, right? So his rookie patch auto numbered to 10, for example, which means there's only 10 of those made, was going for $10,000-$15,000. And this is a player that just came out on the market.
That's insane.
So, but again, it's gambling. So what happened? Everybody thought he was going to go to the Super Bowl. He's going to win. He gets injured. Right? That $15,000 card that everybody was chasing out of the 2022 Panini product is now a dud. Now it goes for like $1,500, $1,000 because he's injured. He's not going to play this next season.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an example of what happens in the hobby, right? So when you're playing for relevancy and you're investing into relevant players today, you're still gambling because these players can get hurt and they can do things to make sure that your market goes up and down. Now, if you invested in someone like Tom Brady, that's already done it. He's been in the game for 23 years. He's won 7 rings, and he's automatically the GOAT now because of what he's accomplished. Now you're investing into what we call the blue chip stock, and that's not gambling. Now you have to pick out you do your research, pick out the card that has the most demand that you can afford to buy, which ranges anywhere from, he has rookie cards anywhere from $300 to $2 million, right? So for example, he has a 2000 Skybox NFL rookie card that you can go get on eBay, ungraded raw for about $150. Or you can go get a playoff contenders rookie auto that he signed, and that in a PSA 9 goes for about $1 million, championship ticket. So depending on how much you have to investing into that championship ticket playoff contenders is like investing into Babe Ruth early on, or Honest Wagner early on, because he is the same caliber. I mean, it's arguable, of course, but a lot of people have put him up on that pedestal of saying he's the same caliber as Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, right? And a lot of those cards have already reached their plateau. A Mickey Mantle today in a perfect gem mint condition goes for, I mean, none has ever sold, but of his rookie year, but they go for about 20 to 30 million is what the estimated.
Wow. But plateau, you don't mean plateau, because it's kind of like, that thing is going to go up in value 100 years from now. It's going to be $100 million card or whatever.
It could, depending on inflation and all these different variables. But what I'm trying to say is it's plateaued to where it's priced out so many people out of the market. Like me and you can't go and buy a $30-40 million card and just be like, all right, we're just going to, but there's maybe only 1 or 2 of those guys. But me and you can easily go buy a $5,000 or $10,000 Patrick Mahomes rookie, or a LeBron James, and that's where there's still room to grow.
Sure, 100%. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all speculation, whether it's cards or real estate or cars.
It's all
speculation, right? Blue chip stocks, even. Blue chip stocks could be safe or they cannot be safe. You don't control that company.
100%.
Right? Real estate could be safe. Generally, we talk about, I invest in a lot in real estate. It's a safe product to invest in, but the market goes up and down just like anything else. I mean, talk about the cards 3-4 years ago, cars were gangbusters and the market took a dip, right? Recently.
You're talking about vehicles?
No, cards, like
cards.
Collectibles.
Yeah, in April of 2020, we had a big surge, big boom that lasted until 2022. So for a couple of years.
April of 2020, everything boomed.
Yeah.
Real estate, collectibles, car. I mean, everything went through the roof. And I started it in the watch game. I mean, I'm wearing a watch today that I bought a year ago that I probably overpaid for a year ago because now it's worth less. But again, it's going to go up in value hopefully over time, just like everything else.
Yeah.
Right. And I think everything got inflated in 2020 because there was so much money that was printed. All these people that got PPP loans that all of a sudden had $40,000, $50,000 were taking that and seeing the stock market increasing, watch game increasing, collectibles increasing, cars, vehicles, right? So they started turning this money and trying to flip it. Yeah. And so all this money was in circulation, which drove up the demand for that was never there before because people don't have that much money.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it also had to do with, we talk, one of the main topics that we're talking about here today is alternative investments. People started realizing the strength of the dollar and how it started getting weaker because of how much it was being printed. And they started putting their money in areas where they knew that they had tangible, because the dollar's not backed by anything, since 1976, gold standard's gone. So today it's just, when they saw COVID happen, cryptocurrency, NFTs, sports cards, vehicles, for the first time in history, I've been in the auto industry for 15 years. I've never seen the automotive space go up in value. You never seen a vehicle that you bought for $35,000 go to $42,000 in 6 months or $45,000. It never happened. It's always been a depreciating asset. So the last 2 years were just kind of an example of what would happen if the dollar did start losing its value even more. And what are people going to do? They're going to start reinvesting into alternative assets. And look at what happened with gold. It reached an all-time high. It was at $1,100 before this whole, it hovered around $1,100, $1,200, $1,300, and then it slowly started peaking up. And right now we're at $2,000 again, and we're about to hit another all-time high, just because there's a lot of uncertainties going on right now, especially with what's going on with Silicon Valley Bank, and a lot of people thinking, I need to invest in something that I can actually hold on to. What is this $100 bill going to do for me when it's worthless?
100%. Yeah, I think with inflation, people are looking for those alternative investments, something that's more tangible, right? If inflation continues to go up, it's going down, but if they can tame it, that'd be great. But inflation exists. The the axis of evil, the new axis of evil, the bad guys, the authoritarian governments are now banding together to use the Chinese yuan as their currency and trading in that way. So I think we're going to see some inflection with the US dollar and what's going to happen. And that's definitely going to affect all of us, you, me, everybody in America, right? And so I think the alternative investments is where it's at in the future. I think, even stocks, like I'm, in 2020 I became the stock guru, right?
I think we all did.
Stock Radamus, right? Everybody started pouring money into like stocks and doing all this stuff. And I did okay, but it's gambling. It's literally you're putting money out there. You can't control it. You're hoping that it goes up based on news or
it's all manipulated by
100%.
Yeah, it's all manipulated by the and that could be a conversation of its own one day. But there's a lot of manipulation, and that same thing happened in the sports cards and collectibles world. There's a lot of what we call shill bidding, a lot of hype. Somebody scores a touchdown on a Sunday and his market goes up 60% on that card. And I'll give you a perfect example. When Damar Hamlin had fallen down from his cardiac arrest, his rookie patch auto, like the card I was referring to you earlier, was about $200 to $300 before that happened. As soon as it happened, literally a minute after, if you logged onto eBay and you saw what was going on, his card started selling for $3,000 to $4,000.
Wow.
Because people were hyping it up and speculating that, if he dies, he'll die a legend. And all it is a lot of, unfortunately, it's a lot of people just pumping prices up amongst their friends or whoever and just raising prices to get people to jump in, and then they're stuck holding the bag.
Sounds very similar to crypto and FTs. Yeah. There was a bunch of hype, and I know we jumped in a lot on different assets in the NFT game and crypto and did all right here and there. But again, that was total speculation and people hyping coins up and selling them at the high, and people like us sometimes, especially me, because I didn't know when to sell. Hell, I still have coins, right?
Yeah.
Hoping that one day it goes back up, and it might. I don't know.
I've kind of seen this happen before because I've, as you know, I was in 2017 in the bubble. I invested all this money and I was actually mining Bitcoin.
I remember.
And I had a whole mining operation. And then what happened was I got cocky and greedy, just like everyone else does when you see, an investment 10xing, 20xing. And so what happens?
You were a crypto millionaire. I remember the day.
Yeah.
That you were like, hey, yo, like I made it.
Yeah.
And
then that was December of 2017, January of 2018. I was no longer a crypto millionaire when the collapse started happening. So that actually, it taught me a lesson. So
sure.
I got stuck with it, kind of like what you just said. You got stuck with your crypto because you have no other choice but to hold on, unless you really want to sell it, right? And then take a huge loss. Fortunately, we didn't have to do that. But in 2020, when it started pumping, I started selling off. And I sold at mid price points. But I'm okay because all of those price points were met, and now everything's like half of what that was, right? So, like an example, I invested into. I told you I invested into Dogecoin. I invested into Dogecoin back in 2017 for $1,000. I threw $1,000 into like 5 or 6 different coins: Digibyte, Redcoin, Dogecoin. Just like bought 1 million of each, right? And my buddy Randy calls me on one of these during this whole COVID thing, and he's like, hey, are you seeing what's going on with crypto? And I'm like, yeah, it's some stuff's pumping up, Bitcoin's going up, whatever. And he's like, you should check your accounts because like there's some of these coins that I'm hearing about that are going up. And I'm like, what do you? He's like, do you see what's going on with Dogecoin and Elon Musk? And I'm like, I don't really follow all that shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, log into your account. And I had everything in my storage, all right? And my brother created this server for me, so I put all my coins in there. And I log in and I see that Dogecoin went up to 6 pennies, and I bought it when it was like 0.001 for $1,000. And I was just like, I'll forget about this. Maybe it'll be worth one day. And automatically it turned into, at that time, $60,000. Yeah. So I waited a couple of days, and I got fortunate. I sold it in the 40 something mark. I think it was like 43, 44 cent mark. And that $1,000 turned into $440,000.
Insane.
And, if I waited, it would have went to $700,000 because it went up to like 70 cents, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah. I remember in 2012, I had a friend, Danny, who, I remember Daniel Chona. I think you met him.
Yeah.
This guy would come.
He moved, right?
He was a customer of mine, came in, he was drinking a lot back then, but he seemed like a good guy.
That's the guy that bought the Evo from me with crypto.
With crypto.
Yeah. He bought a Mitsubishi from me with $40,000 in Ripple.
He did with Ripple. Yeah. So he, in 2012, 2011, I hired him because he was a customer, good guy, drank a little bit, but it was okay. He was a good dude. And he worked part-time, 20 hours a week. Every paycheck, he put 20% into the stupid thing that he was talking about.
Yeah, everybody thought it was stupid.
Crypto deal, these imaginary coins. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing with your money, bro? Like, do something else with your money. Get your shit together. Get an apartment. Get out of your fucking basement, your parents' house, right? Yeah. This dude is retired now. This part-time guy that was drinking a lot. I mean, he told me about it in 2014. I think it was 400. I bought 10 of them.
Yeah, it was like $300 or $400 bucks. Yeah,
and I bought 10 of them. I wish I would have held him to when we tell him 60,000. That'd have been $600,000. I would have held on to him. But yeah, he's retired.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
His parents actually lived not too far away from where I live in Aurora over there. So I'd always see that Evo. Yeah, he walks into the dealership one day. He's like, "Hey, Mike told me you sell cars." He's like, "I'm looking for this Mitsubishi Evo. It has to be the specific year. I want it to be an MR, 6-speed." And he's like, "But there's one caveat. I want to pay with Ripple." And that was just when I was getting into XRP. And he was like, "I want to pay for the whole car with it because I invested into it and I want to buy this and not have to worry about cash and all that banks."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was actually very funny because he sent over the 40,000 in Ripple the day that he bought it, and my Coinbase account wouldn't let me take that money out because I had to go through extra verifications. It took me like 6 or 7 days to get that money out, and by that time it was one of those situations where I kind of lucked out because everything was booming at the time. And then I think Ripple reached like, I don't know, I think it was like $2 or $3. It was 25 or 30 cents though when he sent it to me, and he bought it at like 3 or 4 cents.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, just goes to show, like, you just don't know what the next investment is going to be. I mean, it's all speculation, right?
And it really is. Yeah. And that's why I think it's important to diversify. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so big on sports cards and collectibles, because it's a perfect form of diversification.
So if someone out there has like $10,000 and they want to 10x that in the next 5 years, what would you say to put the money into?
In the sports card world?
No, just anything. Like, where would you say to take 10 grand and make it into 100,000 in 5 years? Where would you put that money?
I don't think I would. If anybody ever asked me that, I would never suggest to put money into something that works for you. It's something that you would have to invest into, that you have to put work into.
Love that, 100%.
So you could put $10,000 into sports cards. You can put $10,000 into cryptocurrency, NFTs, invested into gold, silver. There is never going to be a guarantee. If you look at the history of the last 100 years, there's never going to be a guarantee that you're going to 10x your money in 5 to 10 years. But if you, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's the 100% truth. If you invest that money into yourself and you take that money and you go and hustle with it, take $10,000, go buy a couple of vehicles and, off Craigslist and start flipping them on the side. Take that $10,000, go, garage sailing or thrift storing or whatever, and buy stuff for $200, $300, $400. That's the only way you're going to be. A lot of these people today they're so wrapped up with what's happened in the last 2 to 3 years. They think that they can just invest money into something and it's just going to make them rich.
Because that's what people were doing.
That is what they were doing. Yeah. But the hard part about that is when you're doing that, and a lot of people on social media will be like, oh, well, I took this 10,000, turned it into 500,000 or whatever. Yeah, that might have happened. But you know what they did after they made that 500,000? They went and took that money and they most likely invested it into another item that was at its all-time high. And now they're stuck holding the bag. Just like everybody that I know right now with Rolexes, and everybody that invested into vehicles and invested into all these different real estate projects in the last 2 years, thinking, oh, well, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to throw it into this and even make it another 5x. And then what happened? You saw it firsthand. Mm-hmm. You were doing fix and flips, and then all of a sudden, everything just dropped and stopped like overnight, right? Yep. Interest rates skyrocketed from 2.9 to 6-7%. Mm-hmm. Boom, market slowed down. Yep. Now what's everybody doing? Oh, well, it's going to come back. Well, I got news for you. It's not. Everything happens in cycles. For sure. And we're due for the next 7 years, 8 years, whatever it is, 10 years for another cycle, and it's going to be the down slope. And so my mentality, and a lot of people will disagree with this, but this is just the way I've done it, is during those high times, I sell off everything. I sell off all my crypto. I sold off my real estate. I refinanced everything at lower interest rates. And now I'm kind of the bear hibernating, waiting for the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
not to get too off topic, I think to answer your question, there is no investment that you can put $10,000 into guaranteed to make 10x 100 grand. But you could go buy a lawnmower and every single Sunday get your ass up and go ask people to mow their lawns for $30 a piece, $50 a piece, whatever it is. And you could probably do more than 10x in the next 5 to 10 years. But it takes hard work. And then you take that money and you sliver it up into a pie and you say, okay, I'm going to take that 100 grand that I just made and I'm going to put 30 grand into this apartment, and you don't have to buy it. And a lot of people go on the comments of this podcast, well, you can't put 30 grand down on a apartment or whatever. Well, go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You can.
Sure.
There's apartments there for 50,000,
Yeah.
40. There's actually homes there for 30 grand, believe it or not. A house that you can buy for 30 grand, Section 8 it, take $800 a month and make 10 grand a year.
Yeah.
Do that 10 times. But people tend to be closed-minded and believe that, well, if it was too good to be true, it sounds too good to be true, so it must be. Well, no, the reason it's not, because you're not taking the time to actually go out there and do things. Instead, you're looking at all these motivational speakers on YouTube and on TikTok and thinking they're going to make you get up off your ass. They're not.
They're not. It goes back to the story when we first met 12 years ago. I was in my real estate career. You had just opened up a small dealership on Colfax, West Colfax. I think maybe you had 12 cars maybe on the lot, something like that.
But I started with about 15, 20.
15 cars on the lot. And you and I were both in the weeds. We were hustling. I remember working 12-hour days. I was working a lot. You were working a lot. That's how we kind of connected, because we were just in the weeds working a lot. And we kind of had similar mindsets, like, let's hustle our asses off. And we were in our 20s, right? Late 20s, I think. And so, like, we're in our late 20s, we're hustling hard, and that's when you should be hustling hard. That's when that $10,000, if you're in your 20s and you save that, or maybe you got that from your grandparents or wherever, it's time to hustle. It's time to work. No one's going to make that money for you. You got to make it for yourself. So I love that comment. And right now, if you're under 30 years old, you should just be working hard, learning as much as you possibly can. There's a lot about leveraging your education, leveraging your time spent at doing something, being really, really good at something and doing it at a high level, right? A lot of people try to do a bunch of different things, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Just fucking do something and be really good at it. And if you can do that, you can make a lot of money. For the people, any last words?
Yeah, just to, work hard, put your grind in. I think it's just important to stay focused on what you're doing, and it's really just staying motivated and being self-driven and proactive. I think that's one of the biggest things that we just talked about with, investing and being an entrepreneur and wanting to get to the next level is just keep motivated and just keep going.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't give up.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. You can find him at the Hobby Source here in Denver online. You can buy Alka-Gem, which is water purification systems. You can buy cars with the Opus Motor Group. Of course, we're Wealth by Real Estate. You can find us on all social media channels. Just look us up. Thanks. And if you like what you heard, give us a follow.